And we're live. Welcome to the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm Kristen Johnson, as usual.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thirsty Thursday.
I hope everybody's happy out there. I wish happiness upon everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody deserves that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, why not? Why not?
Every day, all day long. Go ahead.
One of the things people ask me all the time, like every day, like when I'm walking down the street is, hey Chris, what book are you reading? So I thought I would share one with you. This is a new addition to our mad library of books. And this is called The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. Almanac. Yeah.
Like
Almanacs.
the farmers. Almanac.
Yeah. Words.
Hi, Rosie Page.
This is the ultimate guide to greys, reptilians, hybrids, and Nordics. And I don't know about you guys. Depending how far you get into ufology, there are an awful lot of races of aliens.
Yes, there are.
And I cannot keep up with my Gaia. I just can't. I don't know what they're talking about sometimes. So I got this almanac to find out. Now, it's a pretty interesting book. It's by Craig Campo. I can't even pronounce his name. Campobasso. Oh, he's never coming on the show now. It's by Craig.
So bad.
And there's 81 different species of aliens in here. So I thought, we do cryptid of the week sometimes. We go to like alien of the week, or some weeks here and there, little alien going on. And we'll start with this one. The Sagittarians, let me tell you about just briefly. Their universal origin. Sagittarians are from the Sagittarius constellation in the southern sky, which you probably could have figured out. Physical characteristics are Sagittarians that look like Earth humans, but women range from 8 to 10 feet and men from 8 to 12 feet.
That's where our family comes from, I swear.
They may. I'm a Sagittarius.
Yes, you are.
So I don't know if that maybe, kind of like inclined or somewhere back in the day, Anunnaki, one of these guys snuck in there and made my family. I don't know. But they are very angelic, pure, and refined. Like other star nations, their skin colors range is extensive. Their eye shape can be linear or slightly slanted. They believe in the cosmic law of one, which is put in capital letters. I'm not sure yet what the cosmic law of one is, but I will find out and inform you. They are connected to the unseen universe from which all things flow, and they believe in unity intelligence. There you go. Little para-unity in outer space.
Awesome.
So there's more things here. There's an agenda. Although their participation is minimal, Sagittarians play a part in, that's a big word. Melchizedek Starseed program. And I have seen that through here. That's apparently a thing, a Starseed program. And I don't know if that's like a way to, give your DNA or, sort of a Noah's Ark.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And it's currently focused on Earth. They work alongside other star nations and galactic command centers stationed above and below the Earth. They have some pretty good tech, too, let me tell you. As a member of the Galactarian alignment, Sagittarians have a Galactarian mothership, starships, thought ships, fleet ships, and scout ships. Their craft and command centers use biological supercomputers, naturally. Like really naturally, because it's biological. All space vehicles travel through time-space funnels and inner space continuum. They have one starship that is designed like a giant crystal sphere with long crystalline points. It's beautiful to look at, and the interior of the ship is like being inside a crystal city. Now that sounds cool.
Yeah, it does.
I would really dig being in a crystal city.
Our energy would blow it all up.
It'd be wild. It would be wild. It's a magical creation, states the book. The starship draws its energy from the sun or from starlight, other suns. They are fully conscious and sovereign beings, although they are expert telepaths, which seems to be a thing with the aliens. They seem to communicate through the telepathy. They are exceptional cosmic linguists, very cunning kind of linguists, and therefore effective diplomats. And it goes on to say some other things, but that's interesting. And I'll show you a picture of one here. This lad right here. He's from outer space.
He looks like a Nord or a tall white.
Yeah,
They all
yeah.
look alike.
It may be. And it's, this is a pretty interesting book, and it does help fill in some of those gaps when, we get beyond the Pleiadians and the Nords. There's actually a whole lot more to uncover.
Can you plug me back in, please?
With? Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you. Hit it.
There we go.
We
Technology at its finest
have
here.
a lot of highs out
The
there.
Dark
And
Course Paranormal Podcast. We're just so high tech.
thank you.
We unplug things with our feet. Fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have a great guest for you.
No.
We are
highs.
really excited. What is it?
Do the highs. There's a couple of them. Ken Allen, Anne-Marie Young, Rosie Page,
Hi.
Dawn Screen.
Hey, Ken. Hey, Dawn. Hey, everybody. Hey, Anne-Marie. Hello, beautiful people.
Greg Bakken, Guy Haynes,
Hey, babies.
Don Marie.
Hey, Coon. Hey, everyone. How you doing, Greg?
Thank you, Robbie Crossan, for I don't know if you shared it or not, but
Hi from
Yeah.
Haunted Scotland, he says. We are not alone. Oh, I would totally agree with that.
No way.
Guy says, hey. Rosie Page. Hey, guys. How's it going, Rosie? All right. So
Thank you.
we've, thank you. I always forget that. Let's say hi back. We're social people.
Very.
We don't
just talk
For
to spirits
introverts.
and- yeah, right.
and we are
Most
actually
definitely.
introverts. I don't really talk to anyone. Just you guys. So, anyways,
Where's this going?
as you can see, we really worked out that introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that happen? They're like 3 hours before the show, and showtime comes. I have no idea what I'm going to say.
In your defense, you were just working, so
Yeah. Anyways, we have an awesome show for you. We're going to have a great interview, and we're really psyched. We had to reschedule this interview. My card broke down, and there was one of the few shows that we actually had to cancel, which never happens, but it wasn't really possible to do it. And thankfully, our guest agreed to reschedule. Her name is Meredith Herrenbruck. She's going to tell us how NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, family soul constellations, and Huna are crucial elements to help us use and improve our experience in life. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some paranormal subjects like attachments and maybe the monster in the closet that children often refer to. So let's bring Meredith right on. Hello.
hi.
Hello. Hi, guys.
How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me. Glad we can make this happen.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we wanted to get right into this Huna energy.
Yes.
It's a word I've heard, but like a lot of people, I probably don't know a lot about it. And I think it comes from Hawaii, but maybe you can help us out.
Okay. So Huna is, I'm sure actually everyone has heard, or many people have heard the word kahuna. And they are teachers. They are Hawaiian shaman, if you will. They have a lot of different disciplines. But Huna is basically those who can see that which is unseen. And they can be healers, they can be herbalists, they can be, kahuna of war, all sorts of as I said, disciplines. And so how I have learned to use it is to help clients, help people be able to, kind of clear their systems, their bodies, their experiences of anything that is stuck that they just are not conscious about. And what I mean by that is soul fragments, past life issues, maybe ghosts or entities that are attached to them, kind of all that kind of paranormal realm that I know you guys are totally into. So I clear people, places, and things of unwanted attachments and energies.
That's excellent. Yeah, and that does sound a little like a spiritual rescue
Medium
therapy, where you have like a possession, like a mild case of possession, like you get a mild cough kind of thing, but it's really, a ghost maybe from, your family or some place you visited that's kind of messing with you or influencing your behavior in some way.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't know that they have attachments because they often happen from long ago and we're so used to it, we don't know anything different. So, but often they'll have a new behavior or maybe a new addiction or a new kind of voice in their head that just doesn't really feel like them.
Mhm.
Or, it could really be anything, or a feeling of just feeling extra depressed. And they just go, I don't know, I'm normally a happy person, but what, I don't know.
What?
Maybe I had too much alcohol and I'm just depressed and so forth, but then it keeps going on and they just don't know what to do. And then they just go, I don't know, maybe I just need an antidepressant pill. Or, we look at Western medicine. The thing that happens though is what I love about the Huna tradition and the Huna way of going about things is it looks at really the whole person and the whole experience. And we look at what the root cause of the issue is. And we'll go wherever it needs to go, whether it's we talk to the body parts or we talk to the body, or maybe there's a voice that comes up. So it could be, a mild case, or it could be a really severe case. It doesn't necessarily matter. But my job is to help the clients,
How old?
basically get to
Sorry.
themselves and their highest self.
How old is this tradition? I imagine it's quite old.
Good question. Yes, I do not know how old it is, but I would imagine hundreds of years old, if not, the whole lineage. Shamanism has happened and occurred for, many traditions, and because we didn't have Western medicine and so forth. So, they can employ plant medicine and so forth, but I do more of the spiritual medicine, if you want to call it that.
Do you how do you go about that? Do you have feelings? Do you see them? Do they talk to you? We're talking about like spirits and entities, attachments.
Yes. When I'm working with a client one-on-one, we're having a conversation and I'll put them under a little hypnotic state for a little bit. And then we'll just have a conversation on, okay, well, you have this experience that's you're not liking. Let's go find it. And we have a conversation. If it's like, oh, well, and the person might feel something heavy on their chest, or they might go, oh, I don't know, my toe itches, or my back really hurts, or something feels like it's moving around. And then we go and there's a process by which we just kind of talk and have a conversation. Sometimes when it gets more intense, I'm actually talking to the spirit itself through the voice box of the person. But the voice will often sound different.
Mhm.
The cadence will be different. And so you're talking to something different.
That's so very interesting. My goodness.
It is. So do you get strange voices with your clients sometimes? Like, just what do they sound like? Do you have a woman sound like a man, or is just a different accent? What happens?
Sometimes, their voice will be deeper. They'll just talk differently. Or it'll be thicker and heavier or lighter, or it'll maybe sound like a child. And
Hmm.
sometimes, and you have to kind of look at, well, is it an age regression that we're really working with for the person, or is it actually someone else? And we don't always know, but that's why when I work with NLP and family soul constellations and Huna, I can better pinpoint what exactly is happening, because maybe it's not necessarily an entity, but it's just really age regression, and
Hmm.
they're in a childlike state.
Sure, not everything's a ghost when first
No.
there, but I think that does happen. Like a mild possession, as I was joking with before. I think people do have these kind of issues. So that's interesting. So you used all three methodologies when you're working with a client.
Always, always. And it's really helpful because the thing is, why we have attachments is because, well, we haven't cleared them out. And we don't know what we're kind of vibrating at, or if we're really in a fearful state or we've had trauma, we're at a really low vibration. And a lot of entities will actually, and this happens most often, is that a lot of entities will want to come and help. And they go, oh, I've had that experience. I know what that feels like. I feel badly for you. Maybe I can help you. And with that energetic match, then you kind of fuse like instantaneously. And so it's kind of like you have yourself open, if you will. And then that person will come to help you, but it's unconscious to the person. They have no idea that it's happened, at least consciously.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so entities often are actually really nice. Very rarely do I get into kind of the more evil, demonic things. It can happen, but it doesn't happen as often as people think.
Fascinating.
A
Fascinating.
lot of people, they go right to the dreaded D word, right to it's demonic, when it's probably just an angry spirit.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. And I definitely agree. Sometimes, well, I'll say every time I deal with a spirit or work with a spirit, and they are kind of malevolent and they're mean, or they're kind of bossy and they say, no, this one's mine. Sometimes they do that and it can be intimidating, but I've felt so much into it and have had enough experience that I can say, okay, thank you for saying that, but I know that's not true, because the universal rule is one soul, one body. They know it and I know it. And so when the gig's up, they just kind of try and be a bully. But then I go, fine, well, let me talk to your boss, because I know you're not the boss, because they have better things to do, right? So let me talk to them. And then sometimes I go up the ladder, if you will, and I talk with like the mega boss. And then what I'll do is I will work on the contractual relationship. So I've kind of turned into a lawyer, or a mediator very often, because I'm working on behalf of the client, but I'm also like, I don't want to just cast this spirit out and he doesn't have anywhere to go because he's so fearful of, in a way getting fired or going to a deep, dark place.
Mhm.
So I reset the whole system, if that makes sense. And I've learned a lot more about the structure of how, the unseen works, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. It means the unseen. I mean,
Mm.
that alludes to clairvoyance. So do you find that, do you have a psychic abilities as well as using these techniques?
I do. So ever since I was little, I had premonitions, and not understanding how I could have that, it got me to question so many things about how the world worked. So I've learned that I can hear voices in my head that are not mine.
Mhm.
Sometimes or often I'll see pictures about the history of the spirit or the person or the house, or whatever I'm having to clear. I'll get pictures. And one time in reality, I actually did hear a ghost, and he was very mad at what I was doing. It was one of my first clearings, and it scared the heck out of me. And yeah, I'll tell you that story when it's the right time. But I did, yeah, me and my friend, I said, I'm going to clear this room. And the air pressure completely changed, like you're going up in an airplane.
Ooh.
And so my ears just got a lot of pressure. And the corner of the room said no in a male voice.
Oh, wow.
And did you hear that with both your ears?
Yes, with the ears, not just in my head. And I looked at my friend. I said, did you hear that? She goes, yes, I did.
Oh, you
So
both
I
heard.
changed.
Too.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
clear.
yeah. I mean, he was mad. He's like, no, you're not getting me out of here. So I switched tactics. I go, oh, so let's not just yell and come in swinging. Let's have a nice conversation and see why you're here, what's going on, how I can help you so you can get to a better place. Because generally, when our body dies, our souls go somewhere else.
Mhm.
So if you don't want to be stuck here, then let's help you along. And so I have angelic beings who help me, and they're awesome. And they totally help me, because I'm like, I don't know that realm. So if you can help me and put them in where they need to go, that would be fantastic. So they help me out, and then they actually report back. It sounds wackadoodle. I know,
I
but
love that word. I use
Yeah,
that
we
all
use
the
it all
time.
the time.
Wackadoodle.
uh,
It
but
doesn't go
it's
wackadoodle to us.
true.
You know, I
Yeah.
have about things like this. I followed some of the work like Dr. Terrence Palmer has done with his I think it's spirit release therapy. I think I got the acronym wrong earlier.
Yes.
And
Yeah. That's
it kind of
great.
uses a medium because
Mhm.
he's not a medium himself, and he's like a psychologist, I believe,
Mhm.
and they work it out. So when you say we got to talk to your boss, I understand what you're saying. There does seem to be some sort of hierarchy,
Hierarchy, yes.
yeah, out there.
Definitely.
Do you
Yes.
see these beings? Do you see them or you just hear them?
I don't see them. I haven't really seen shadows or anything. Sometimes I've picked it out or them out of the corner of my eye, but typically I don't see them. But I can feel them definitely. I'll feel a room. I can walk into there and go, "Ooh, there's something funky here." Um, and every time, and I've noticed too, is when my attention goes to something or some object or a place in the room,
Mhm.
then I will, and it just feels heavy or thick or cold, or it just feels like there's something there. I can definitely pick that up.
I was just wondering about the like you said, angelic beings that help you. Can you see them or just feel
I,
them?
I can feel them and I can just hear them in my head. So, for example, when I cleared out that one spirit, it was actually a family that had been part of a war from long ago. It was down in Southern California. And I just got pictures of like this whole rampage, and it was just horrible. But the children had passed away, and the parents and the aunt and uncle were looking for the children. And my friend actually had taken a photo of the room,
Mhm.
and she's a photographer and she's also kind of into all the stuff that I am. And there were no spotlights in the room. There was one lamp on with a covered shade because I always look for lens flare. I think a lot of people like to say, "Oh, I saw an orb," but it's really
A
lens flare.
dust or a burn or
Right,
yes,
right.
yes, we
Right.
understand.
And but there were 5 orbs in the picture, with one being they're all white, and the male, the one who spoke to me, he was, it was like a full white orb. And so that's the center of their being, that's the center of their soul, or spirit, whatever you wanna call it. And, so that's so when I finally did the clearing, and I didn't sleep well that night, and I was totally freaked out, and we were sleeping in the other room, and took us like 2 hours to go to sleep. But I had sent to her, because they're all telepathic, of course. I go, if you could just let me know that they're okay, that would be great. And she's like, okay, no problem. And so I go to finally fall asleep, and I'm awakened in the middle of the night, and I hear this voice in my head go, okay, it's all okay. And I'm like, "Really? Am I just seriously not making this stuff up? Am I just kinda going crazy here?" And I hear this laughter, and she's like, "It's all good. It's fine. They're in a better place now. We've handled it." I'm like, "Okay." And that was really my first clearing on my own, and so that kind of was the send off to kind of my new career, if you will.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Can we talk about some of the other tools as well with the Huna?
Yeah.
You mentioned NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and also the family constellations,
Yes.
soul
So
constellations. That's the word you used.
yes. What is your question? What is your burning question?
What they are exactly, and how
Okay.
you use them in the context of this healing
Mm.
and clearing.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. NLP is short for neuro-linguistic programming. It was developed by 2 guys in Santa Cruz. One, I think, was a psychiatrist, and one was like a psychology student. And Richard Bandler and someone Grinder. Anyway, they devised a beautiful series of questions and a way of holding space for someone to be able to go into their past, their traumas, wherever we need to go to be able to understand how we are creating our experience. And so, in the first question is, what would you like? And why it's important to ask what would you like is we need to figure out, well, we know you don't like where you are, otherwise we wouldn't be having a conversation. But we can't create a roadmap until we know what our desired future is, right? We need to kind of, okay, here we are on the map and where are we going? And then we figure out, once we flush that out, then we go, well, why don't you have that now? And we ask a series of questions to understand how we are experiencing our life, what patterns we have, what assumptions we have. That because if we assumed that, I don't know, the world was red and we come across something blue, then our system is going to have a problem assimilating that information. And we're going to go, but no, everything has to be red. And so what we do is we uncover the structure and we go, all right, well, why do you believe this? Why are you having this current experience now? And how can we get you to your desired state? So there's some presuppositions, if you will, that we are not a victim of our experience, that somehow we play a part in it, and that somehow we have control over our situation. And there's also another presupposition of what you believe, or sorry, what you experience or what you survive is what you recreate. And that's how our brain works. When we survive something kind of well, then we're kind of rewarded with living and not dying, then we go, great, I'm going to file it away. And I'm going to reuse it the next time I see something kind of similar, because now I know that kind of works. But the thing is, when we grow up and we grow older and we have newer relationships and so forth, all the stuff we've learned up to really the age of 3, that's about 80% of our learning, is by the age of 3, about what we believe about ourselves and the world. After the age of 3, all the new experiences are kind of replays, and we're throwing out the same information and the same skill sets. The thing is, they become outdated. Imagine operating as a 50-year-old, but you have 3-year-old technology. Doesn't really work well. So what we do is we kind of uncover all the old patterning and belief systems, and we kind of ask new questions to make the system safe. And we offer new opportunities, and we go, well, would this work? And we kind of marry it all together. So then now the desired state, which we kept away for some very good reason, now we go, wow, that's not so bad. Maybe I can have that now. So that's basically what NLP does.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Excellent. So do you find that that desired state, it changes as they become more aware?
It does evolve. And sometimes it's better fleshed out, or they go, well, I don't really, say, for example, I really want a red Ferrari. And they go, well, I don't really want a red Ferrari, but I just really want to have enough money to be comfortable, right? Or, well, that's kind of egotistical, or whatever it is. And it'll shift, it'll deepen, and then we get to the core of what they're really wanting. And it has to be something that they control within themselves. We can't control our parents. We can't control our bosses or the neighbor down the street. But we can control our thoughts and our actions and our belief systems.
Excellent. Excellent. Anne-Marie Young asked, shadow work, if by a different name. So it does sound a little bit like shadow work. And
Yes.
yeah, concept of that.
Can I ask you a quick question, please? I don't know if the audience heard it, the viewers or anybody. Do you have anybody in your room with you, or are you by yourself?
I am by myself as far as I know. I'm not feeling anybody else. Why is there
Hear a man's voice?
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
I heard a man's voice. It was on when 28 something. I was trying to get the pen to write it down. Oh yes. And he's talking away. Did anybody else hear that? I was just wondering.
I didn't hear it, and I've got the
yeah.
same
I can
headphones
hear him.
here. Yes, a couple of times.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband's in the other room, so I don't know if it's kind of echoing through, but I didn't pick
Right.
up on it myself. Don't
Not
know.
sure. Strange things do happen on the show, so
Yes.
it's very possible.
Cool.
Sometimes light anomalies and sometimes like
I thought I saw
EVP
one
type
before,
stuff.
yeah.
So, Ken says, "Oh snap!
I've got my
that."
crystal. I'm safe.
So Ken heard it as well.
There we go.
All right.
Nice.
So
You Ken.
when we talk about soul constellations, what does that entail?
Family Soul Constellations was discovered really by Bert Hellinger, a German psychoanalyst, I believe. And what it started off by him having a certain client where they role played. And there's this woman who had, Amber, thank you so much for your comments. I love it. Thank you. They would role play. And he says, okay, so if I'm your father, what would you say to your father? And what started to happen was he would start, I don't know, downloading information, and he goes, well, this feels right to say right now. And the woman looked at him, she goes, how did you know that's like what my father would say? That's exactly what he would say, or it's exactly what he said to me many times. And it made him a little, circumspect, but he ended up developing a whole system of kind of existing universal patterns of how families operate when they're stuck in the ways that they're stuck. So, what Family Soul Constellations does is it offers a resolution to old, unresolved, stuck energies and traumas from generations in the past.
Oh, okay. So this can be something that maybe a relative experience that you yourself weren't aware of, but somehow it stays within the family.
It does. And sometimes well, not sometimes, all the time, younger generations, in effort to say, I love you, will grab onto that stuck energy and kind of replicate it somehow in their own lives in effort to point to it and say, there is something that has not been fixed and we need to address it. But it's an unworkable attempt to say I love you because all you're doing is making your own life a mess, right? So so if there's been great fortune, a loss of great fortune, anyone in wars, which of course in the last century there have been many, famines, childbirth traumas and issues, and often those were very much swept under the rug up until even now. It's kind of like a woman quiet thing. But there's trauma, there's feeling, there's emotion that's held in our body and in our souls that if not attended to, what my conclusion is or theory is then it plays out physically. So we have chronic pain, we have chronic addictions, we have chronic whatever it is, or lackluster relationships, or suicides, or alcoholism. Like there's a whole host of trying to solve the problem without solving the problem. Family Soul Constellations wipes the slate clean in a very beautiful way. And we offer a resolution such that at the end of the constellation, which is about 2 hours long, roughly, the resolution has a ripple effect in real time to all the family members affected.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And that
It's
is
really powerful stuff.
Very
Really, really powerful. Yeah.
so how do you feel their woes? You see that it's something that's not in their past. They're in a hypnotic state. So you're kind of doing like some regression type hypnosis.
So no, actually, so that's more Huna's style of work.
Oh, okay.
Family Soul Constellations is we'll have a conversation at the beginning of the session or maybe a day before, and we go, what has been some of your family history? Are there addictions? Like basically, what are the traumas that have occurred? And I'll create kind of like a genealogical map. And based on what the person or the client is trying to fix, maybe it's an addiction, or maybe it's hypervigilance. That was the most recent constellation I did this week for a client. Or gosh, maybe it's I can never find a relationship that I want to stay in. It could be any issue, or maybe a chronic pain in your body. You know, honestly, I mean, you can use it Huna, or you can do family soul constellation style. And so we have this conversation, I map it out. And then what I do is I put on little Post-it notes or little small cards, the roles of maybe mother or father, or the root cause of hypervigilance. And what I'll do is we'll fold them up and I'll mix them up, and I will be, and I'll get one card at a time and be drawn to place it in a certain location in the room. I have no idea what it is. It's double blind, but it's very intuitive work. And I put it in the room in a certain place. And then once I get all the cards out, then I will step onto them and I will download the information. And once I do that, then I can be able to understand what the structure is and what needs to be said or done or resolved. And sometimes it's like, maybe it's two brothers who are fighting and they just didn't want to own up to their responsibilities. And you go, you got to apologize. You know, so sometimes, you know, if I have a bunch of people to help me out, each person will step into a role, and that will be their role for the constellation. So we have multiple people talking. But for me, I can step into each card and know what needs to be said and so forth. And sometimes I don't want to apologize. Well, let's just say you did. What would happen if you apologized? All right. And then when they do, the room will feel different, and the reactions of the different roles will feel different, because we're solving it. We're bringing everybody to light. We are acknowledging our parts. We're making people whole. I mean, imagine if everyone apologized when they needed to, when it was the right thing to do, how much better off we would be.
Right.
Right. And
everybody would be nicer.
less scarred, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it sounds like you have a sort of a personal relationship with this work. Did you have experiences growing up or in your past that related to this, and that's how you came upon it? Or
Well, yes. So my childhood had some experiences that were not super awesome. So I had a childhood trauma, and I didn't get the support I needed. So anyway, I had a lot of emotional baggage that traditional therapies help to a point, but not really. And I realized I was spinning my wheels and stuck in story, and I just wasn't getting anywhere anymore. And so the universe provided, and a friend of mine and I were talking about something unrelated. And it was, you know, he was doing NLP on me basically. And he is a really close friend of mine. And he just was asking the questions. So 2 days later, I signed up for all the classes, and 2 years later, I finished all the classes. But in that coursework was Family Soul Constellations, and that's how I got introduced to it. And it's just awesome. It's just amazing, amazing work.
It sounds awesome and amazing. It does.
Yeah, it certainly does. You were able to surpass the issues that you had, get a new lease on life, and then you explore this even further.
Yes, and all these tools that I bring to the table help you uncover and resolve past and current issues, so you don't have to manage it anymore. Like, you can actually put it down. You don't need a pill for it. You don't need to try and be nice at Thanksgiving. It's like, no, it's resolved. It's out of my system in whichever way it needs to go, and we're good. So it's an amazing place to be. Like, when I look at myself when I was 16 and where I am now, it's like, I don't have nightmares. I don't have all these things that I used to have. Thank you, Amber. And so now I'm going, why isn't this everywhere? Everyone should be taught this. Everyone's got to learn, you know, even little minor traumas or a bad conversation with a teacher. It's like, well, how do I stay whole? How do I stay centered and grounded and not be triggered absolutely everywhere?
Mhm.
And, you know, I mean, there's the phrase that everyone's like a snowflake these days. Everyone is triggered and everyone is traumatized by what everybody says.
Mhm.
We could live that way, but what about, okay, you can say whatever you want to me. I am not phased,
You're right.
right?
Mhm.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
you do you, and that's great. And I'm sorry you feel you have to do that. The cool thing is when you're grounded and centered and you know what's happening. And of course, no one wants to be insulted. We know about that from the Academy Awards. No one likes those things.
Right.
Um, but why not just stand in your power and go, okay, I see where you're coming from, but don't think that I have to play that game. I
Mm.
don't need to. And the more you don't need to, and the more you don't have to manage all that stuff, well, then the other person will then go, all right, well, I guess I'm going to be mean and bully someone else. Well, okay. And then you're done. You just wipe your slate clean and you're like, okay, thank you. What's my next lesson? You know, what else do I need to do?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. How long does
Yeah.
the whole process take from the time a client calls you and you set up an appointment?
Well, each session is about an hour and a half to 2 hours. One of the first things I do is I do a clearing where I clear entities, attachments. I look at the elements if they're out of balance. I look at if they're soul fragments, all those sorts of things. And I do a clearing because if I don't do a clearing, the energetic attachments might just go, yeah, I don't want to change. I don't want a new vibration. This is working for me. So any work that I want to do with the client will just be totally punted and we'll waste time and money. And then the person will go, well, it didn't work. It's like, well, it's not because of for a lack of trying. So I do a clearing first. And then a few weeks later, we'll do another session. And often it's NLP first, and then a family soul constellation, and then, you know, maybe another NLP. Often about 4 sessions really gets a good shift for the person. It's, yeah, it's
Excellent. So that's
amazing.
not a lot of time. You mentioned soul fragments a couple of times. For our
Yeah.
audience, can you tell us what exactly a soul fragment is?
A soul fragment is part of our, from what I understand and have learned, is it's part of our soul that went given a huge trauma, something that is just so overwhelming, that the part of the soul will just split off because it doesn't feel supported, it's overwhelmed, and it ends up getting frozen in time. And I don't know if it really has a place or if it's like on a hidden on a dimension. It can be in any dimension or maybe multiple dimensions, and you have to go find it. But it's a part of our souls that just splits off and it's like, I'm out of here. Sorry for the background noise if you guys hear it. That's children going to bed.
Okay.
Um, and so what I do is I help find it and go, okay, when did it happen? What were the circumstances? And what does that soul fragment need? And we'll have a conversation with that soul fragment. And then I'll end up, once everyone's happier and the soul fragment's ready to join, then I'll clear it as well and offer it positive energy and whatever's needed in the dimensions and so forth. And then I'll bring it back to the person.
Oh, that's
And
really
often the room will light up. There was one time where literally there was yellow light in the room, and I'm like, I'm not imagining this. And I'm looking at my client, and I go, "Are you seeing this?" She goes, "Yes, I am." And like, there's this light. It was very faint, almost like not a mist, but it was just like, you know, when you can see light emanating from a light bulb,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but it's not tangible. But it was like that. It was this very warm, kind of butter yellow light. And then I brought the fragment in, and the person felt fuller, more dense, more complete. Her voice shifted, uh, and her chronic pain actually went away. It was incredible.
It
Yeah,
almost sounds like a
definitely coming to
candlelight
you.
or angelic light in a way.
Yes.
Anne-Marie Young, our good friend, she says taking responsibility for their actions is a hard thing to understand and face for some. So, yeah, I would agree with that. And that seems like
Yes.
part of where you're going with things. So people understand their role in situations that maybe emotionally scarred them.
Yes. And in a perpetrator victim dynamic, it is sometimes hard to get to that point. However, and I never say, okay, well, you just have to own your part and okay, let's just move on. I work more from, well, what part of you allowed yourself to stay in that experience, you know, and stay in that victim state. And sometimes it's, well, if I take responsibility, then, or if I own up to it, or if I forget about it, then sometimes we have an identity crisis with it as well. And we go, well, who am I if I'm not that? And who am I if I don't get attention for that? We don't consciously think of it that way at all. We go, I'm just in a trauma state. I don't know where to get help. And you're kind of in that cyclical spiral. But when we can somehow get to the point of owning wow, there I was, and now it's in the past, and I don't have to believe the victimhood state anymore, and I can move through it and beyond it and be a whole person, then we can still acknowledge that it happened, but that you're not chained to it anymore. Mm-hmm. And you're free to be able to be more your adult self, right? We can still have the memories, but that you're not tied up in knots every single time you see something that relates to it. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. What can people do to get on board with this kind of thinking? Like, what can they do at home? Obviously, we want them to reach out to you.
Yes.
You've got a couple of websites, and I'll mention them real quick because some people only hear this through audio and they won't see the ticker at the bottom of the screen. But you have two websites, one being www.ghostfreeproperty.com. That's a great name, Ghost Free Property, because
Thank you.
Unhaunted. And is that more about like blessing a home, that particular website?
That is more, well, there is blessing, but it's really about removing ghosts or any funky vibes from objects, or honestly, ghosts or malevolent beings from closets. I had one where actually a kid was afraid of something in the closet, and there was something in the closet. It was attached to a toy that was given to him, you know, but it was a pre-owned toy. And anyway, that was a very interesting lesson. I'm always learning with every single client. So that is more about ghosts and clearings, and maybe specifically the Huna work. LivingYourAwesome.com is more about the NLP, family soul constellation work, where if you're having chronic conditions, trauma, anxiety, you know, anything that's just emotionally difficult for you, or even if it's, hey, I don't know how I keep getting sabotage from getting a promotion. And gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm smart enough and I've done all the work and this and that, and somehow it just keeps not happening. So it doesn't have to be necessarily the depression and anxiety, but that the Living Your Awesome deals more with, how are you stuck? How can I help you get unstuck from whatever it is? Let's go find it. And then let's move through it and beyond.
I love that name, Living Your Awesome.
Yes.
Yes. That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
So I'm going to promote my book here.
Oh yes.
It's Becoming Ridiculously Awesome. And so this, it kind of, you know, started the whole thing. And so you can get my book on my website or Amazon. There's also a Kindle edition at Amazon. So if you don't want to start with a session or series of sessions, this has exercises in it, and it brings you through super stuck state to, you know, going through NLP, family soul constellations and Huna to, you know, much better place in the end. So go buy it. It's a really cool book.
Yes.
Jeff, hi, how are you?
That's the go.
The go.
Hey Jeff, what's going on tonight? So I know that is really cool. Getting back to that haunted toy, because I love haunted toys. You see, we got a variety of things in our background. They're not all haunted, but
yes.
What was the toy, and how did you remove that kind of attachment where it was in an inanimate object?
So what happened with that one is the mother was talking with her pediatrician, and we shared the same pediatrician. And she says, my child is afraid to go to sleep. He's always wanting to sleep with us, always fearful of his room. And he says he's really scared of his closet. And so the pediatrician got us in touch with each other. And so I ended up going to their home a few weeks later. And again, like I said before, I will get drawn to certain objects and I'll just keep looking at it and get a vibe. I like it. I don't like it. It feels eerie. It feels scary, feels mean. I mean, whatever I'll get. And so in regards to the boys' room, I kept looking at the closet and I go, all right, well, what's in it? I look at the clothes. It's just objects. Okay. I keep looking at this basket of toys. And I talked to the mom and said, can we go through this? Because there's something that's holding my attention. And we lay it all out. And I point to this one toy immediately. I go, tell me about that, please. And she says, funny you should mention that. And, I cleared other parts of her homes. And every time I said, please talk to me about this, she goes, funny you should mention that. So I knew I was on the right track. So it was a train. It was kind of like these plastic train pieces to be part of a big cool train set. And they were bought online, pre-used or, pre-owned. And I just go, yeah, I got pictures of the kid and I go, it just feels like it's this mean boy who's kind of a bully, just unhappy. And all of his emotions went into this toy because he played with it a lot. But also what happens is, in general, when you have these emotions that are now attached to the object, now the object is vibrating at that level. And so then entities will come attached and go, ooh, this is fun. I like this feeling. And either I want to mess with or, oh, I just, energetically match. But what I've noticed is any object that has that vibration will have a negative attachment to it. It's never positive. It's not grandma. It's not, who loved to knit you sweaters. Who's
Holy crap. What is happening? You heard that, right?
Yeah, I think her audio
I'm
went
sorry.
Up.
All right, are we back? I was muted for a moment.
No worries. Yeah, your audio just kind of went
Oh,
out.
you know why? Because my earbuds died.
That'll
That's
do it.
why.
Sometimes they make it the full session, sometimes they don't. So I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it did sound a little odd. Our audience is like, wow,
Whoa.
and what the heck? And, yeah.
I know. It's interesting. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's a coincidence. Sometimes not.
We don't believe in coincidences. It's synchronicity with us.
Yes, agreed. So the objects always will have I have experienced that it's a negative attachment. So this particular toy, I cleared as much energy as I could. And what that basically means is using my intention through training. It's not just, hey, I'm going to throw some positive vibes to it. It's a very focused intention. I've learned to get very big and to look at layers, dimensions, all of that, and kind of fix what needs to be fixed and offer new vibrations to it until it feels okay, where my attention is no longer held to it. So I kept clearing it and kept clearing it, felt mostly better. And I go, all right, I can only do so much here, but I'm going to check in later tonight because I can do this work remotely. I always like to be in person. I get more information, but I can do it remotely as well with same success. So there I am later that night and I'm checking in. I'm staring at my ceiling. My husband's asleep and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on a little hunt right now. And I check in with the room and this entity would only come out at night. And so because I wasn't getting the vibe of an entity, but I got a vibe of a portal, I'm like, well, this is interesting. I've never experienced this before. And so then this entity came out, and it took me a while. It took me a good half an hour, 45 minutes to negotiate and get this entity out. It was actually a more powerful one. And but I did the work, and I said, sorry, you cannot be here. So anyway, I did my work, and then it was gone. And then I checked in with the parents a few days later. The son can go in his room, go to sleep, no problem. He's not afraid of his closet anymore,
Oh,
which is awesome.
excellent.
Now, do you think if he had,
Most definitely.
the parents had maybe just thrown the toy away, is there a chance the entity would have stayed and gone to another toy because he was already there, maybe enjoying the energy of the child?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
actually-
so now, I mean, I kind of have to put this caveat with anybody who has an object, whether it's totally benign, maybe it's from a grandparents and you're doing an estate sale, is put some positive attention and intention, and clear it, if you will. And I can, even teach you now a very simple one. And you can look at it online. It's called Ho'oponopono. There are two versions of it, but the simpler one is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and I thank you. And that kind of clears the decks on a very, can be extremely powerful depending on how much intention you put to it and what level you're operating at. But that's a very good one to offer love and clarity. Sometimes I just do that if there's an animal that has, died on the side of the road. I just kind of clear that energy and hope that spirit to move on. So
Now,
you can use it for anything and everything. Yeah.
You mentioned a name there in the front. Was that a Hawaiian name? It was.
Yes,
was
I
a
was
lot
going to write it down, but it went
to
so
unpack.
fast. So.
Okay, so thank you. Ho'oponopono. H-O''O. P-O-N-O. P-O-N-O. And it means to make it right. To make it right. And it supposedly clears 7 generations up and 7 generations down.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
That's very powerful.
And it would be the Huna, I'm guessing, right?
The Huna stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I like that. And that's something people can kind of look up. Amber had asked a question that you're more or less answering here, and that's, how can we protect ourselves if we collect haunted items or we go to a lot of cemeteries? I can tell you, I had a couple of toys in my childhood that were haunted, but it lived in a haunted house. I don't think it was just the toys themselves. We both grew up in haunted houses as small children. And I wish somebody could have cleared those things. I had these stiff clown dolls that were just, what I saw and what everybody else saw would be completely different things, and they were pretty darn spooky.
Yes.
Leave that there, but yeah.
Okay, if you collect haunted items, I don't know why you would, but I know there's people fascinated with it, but it can really cause problems. So I would get someone like me to clear them. Unless you want to have these haunted experiences and so forth, but they can follow you around, they can harm you very physically. And the more they're around, the stronger they can get. I mean, you've heard the stories. There's the Amityville house. There's Annabelle out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I really would caution you to do that. I would personally clear them. Absolutely. And say, yes, this was once haunted and so forth. That's energy I do not want to have around. I don't think it's very helpful. That's not the kind of experience I would like to have.
I have friends that have haunted museums. I mean, they really have quite a few haunted items, and it is something to think about, them all kind of working together and all those different energies mixing. They told us stories. We interviewed Cody Desbians and Satari Haas, who have a haunted museum out this way in New England. And, they can be kind of mad at each other, some of these objects, which is very interesting.
They don't like each other.
No.
Why would they? No, they like territory. They like power. They want to control you. And they love the adoration. Like Annabelle is one doll where I kind of want to go see it, but
Mhm.
I just end up clearing it, and I think they'd be mad at me.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right, right.
You know,
Yeah,
but
that's
the thing
fantastic.
is, he wants adoration. It's a male entity. I keep getting it's a male entity, and he loves the limelight. He loves the attention. Sure. And who doesn't, who doesn't want that? So, but that's the level that it operates on of, hey, look at me. I'm going to scare you. I'm going to control you and take your energy.
Yeah.
And you won't know anything. So it's kind of a sleight of hand. Hey, look at this. I can, turn on your flashlight, but I'm going to kind of, and now that person is open. Now that person is a little scared, and now your vibration's a little porous, and now you're in a little contracted state. Cool. Now my friends can sneak in the back door and kind of hijack you.
Mm.
Why do you want that?
Right.
It is kind of like a don't feed the bears kind of thing, right? That
Yes.
in our own experience and with attachments, we've had that happen. It's like the more thought you give it, the stronger it gets. It's like it takes it like an energy, the more obsession on it and that sort of thing that you have about it, these objects or experiences, it just draws it closer to you.
Yes.
We found things got out of hand
Oh,
for us for a little while.
yes.
So,
It's
it was
bad.
hard to do that. The second part of Amber's question or was that she goes to a lot of cemeteries. Is there things a person could do that, say a paranormal investigator goes to cemeteries, haunted locations, encounters different things, rituals, or what would you recommend they do when they leave or before they go in, that kind of thing?
Okay. So this is what I do every single time. And it takes practice. Like meditation, it's always good to kind of do it every day, or so for you to understand the shift in feelings, shift in grounding, or whatever you're meditating on. It takes practice because you need to build that muscle, if you will. Does
Right.
that make sense? So you start off with grounding yourself, meaning sitting there quietly and connecting to the earth. You can kind of imagine either you're at the top of a big pyramid, where the pyramid's really far deep into the earth, and the tippy top, up to your belly button or even solar plexus is that's where the top is. And what helps is that you're connecting into energies bigger than you that are supportive and have a high vibration. So it's really important to practice grounding and even doing energy balls. So what I started off doing when I was learning all this is you kind of rub your hands together and you play with like this energy ball, and you'll feel prickles in your hands,
Hmm.
and you imagine growing it. And this is practicing your intention, and you
Yes.
grow it and you manipulate it. And then when you're done and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're not forcing it, you're allowing the energy to go through you. Otherwise, you're going to get exhausted. And I used to do that, and it's not the way to do it. You allow the energy to come through you, and you build it. And then when you're done, it feels ready to pop. Then you just let it go, or you can bring that high energy back into you to heal parts of yourself. Okay. So grounding is number one, and learning to understand how to use your intuition. And then secondly, you shield yourself and you imagine yourself in a bubble. Here, I'm going to put my iPad. All right, let's see how this goes.
There you go.
That's good.
Can you hear me?
You're
Great.
back. Yes.
Okay. So, so you have to shield yourself, and that again is intention. You imagine a big blue bubble
Mhm.
of protection around you, 18 inches, beneath the floor and above you and so forth. And you check behind you and so forth. So you ground, shield, protect, and you invite your spirit guides or your angels in. And then you go forward with your intuition, and you're always checking in, but don't go into the fear state. Grow bigger, grow stronger, grow more grounded. Because if you shrink into the fear state, that's where you can kind of get into trouble.
Mhm.
So I would recommend being bigger and stronger, not forceful like a bully, but more like Buddha, bright light, higher vibrations. And then all the lower stuff just won't want to touch you because they know they can't compete. But often cemeteries are really calm and they're portals within themselves. So, uh, you know, it's often pretty benign in cemeteries, at least the ones that I've been to.
Some of them
Yeah, some of them are really actually very nice and common.
Yeah.
I like that, and they're very
very
serene,
serene.
you know,
They
that
are.
kind of thing. And yeah, I like the quiet and peace of them.
Yeah.
I love the energy ball thing, and
He
I've
does
done
that.
that, and it's amazingly, you know, as you focus and as you said, let the energy come through you, you feel the resistance on your hands, and you can grow it, and
Yes.
the resistance builds, and like you can make it a little bigger until you feel the resistance when you try to push your hands a little closer together. And that's interesting. You can put an intention in that and send it places.
He likes to throw them at me when he gets mad.
Yeah, no, I don't. Like a snowball. Snowball.
That's awesome. And that's fun. Like play energy games, but just make sure the other person is aware that you're playing.
Yes.
Of course. Of course. Amber went on to ask if you believe that most are bad energies. So what is your take on that?
Well, the one I'd kind of rephrase that. I would say bad is a judgment. And so that puts all of our own stuff onto it. What I'd prefer to say is that there are lower vibrational energies that are more focused on apathy, negativity, anger, control, that sort of stuff. The higher vibrations are more positive, light affirming, light attracting. And then there are those that are more dark attracting.
Oh,
So
sure.
it's just kind of a rephrase.
I think
Are most of them?
attract,
No.
right? So if you have something that's negative, it's only going to draw more negative. Or if you're in a mental state that's negative, you know, that's why worlds can just fall apart, right? Because you're just on that downward spiral, but it can go the other way.
Absolutely. And so just think of everything as a magnet. So if you have a magnet of, say, level of consciousness of 50, and I'm referring to levels of consciousness based on Dr. David Hawkins' work of Power versus Force. And so he talks about levels of consciousness being from 0 to 1,000, which is on a logarithmic scale of, I think, 10. And so the more, the higher vibrations you go, it's more powerful by 10. And so once you get into the higher vibrations, you don't need to be worried about the lower vibrations because you just kick them off because you know the game, you know what's going on, and you know how to check yourself as well, such that you go, I appreciate and I will, what's going on. I am not fearful and I will help you as I can, but you will not be in my space. And that's the end of the conversation, you know, and then help them as you can. So it's a lot of self-mastery if you want to go into cemeteries and do haunted things. And, you know, I mean, it's fun, it's interesting, it's fascinating. But to me, I'm more of a helper. I am more of a, okay, well, let's help them along and get them to a better place. Otherwise, they just stay stuck here. And I think it's just kind of a waste of a good soul, you know? And if they're negative or sad or in anguish or anger, well, let me help you out. And so sometimes I kind of do NLP on the ghosts themselves, you know?
That's excellent. I like that. And you're crossing them, you know, in a way that you know, mediums often do. And it's kind of, do you picture the light, like kind of, you know, go in the light type of thing, or?
Depends on what the soul is. What if it's a soul of an octopus? What if it's a bear? What if it's a tornado? The more I do this work, the more I understand that there's consciousness in absolutely everything. And so I can't make an assumption on where it needs to go.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about panpsychism a lot on the show because, you know, we find it as a reason for objects to be haunted. Some inanimate material, you know, we know that it exists, and you say, well, how is that even possible? Why would it have some sort of soul or part of a soul?
But
attachment?
everything,
consciousness is a better way to put it, and
Yeah.
that's what we discuss often because we like that. I think that's kind of the future of paranormal field and that sort of thing. Getting into consciousness study is absolutely next level, and we love it.
Yes.
So that's fascinating. What are some of the maybe some success stories that you've had you can share with us.
Goodness. In which category?
So
Do you want more ghost stories or do you want constellations?
I love a good ghost story.
They're good. I was called upon a person who was a manager for a public works project. And there was actually a possession that occurred with one of the workers. They were fixing a street, and there was like a sinkhole, and there were like sinkhole issues, and they had to fix the street. And there just constantly kept being problems on this street. And there was one guy who was in the sinkhole, and they were working on the pipes and so forth. And the guy actually became possessed, and he was like one of the nicest guys in the world, apparently.
Wow.
And something came over him. His eyes turned black, and he started ranting and raving and almost like wanting to kill the other person who was in the sinkhole with him.
Wow.
And the energy got transferred, and then and then the guy just ran off running, and I don't know if he ever went back to the site. I mean, he was just so freaked out. So I get a call, and they go, please, can you help us? Like, I do not know what to do, but the project, it's like, no matter what we do, she goes, and I've been successful in so many public works projects, but this is beyond me. So what ended up happening was I did a clearing remotely. And basically what was happening was, fascinating story. There was an object, it was a knife, actually. Was it a knife or a gun? I can't remember. I get more negative stuff from knives than anything, less from guns.
Wow.
And so there was a knife that was hidden and buried long ago before the area was paved. It was like a newer community.
Wow.
And it was a weapon that I got was used in a murder, an unsolved murder.
It had just been buried there, and
It had been buried.
They put in the road. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
So,
the ground up.
Right. So the knife then, of course, had this big negative energy attached to it. Lo and behold, a very negative entity attached to it and was there for years. And so this sinkhole, this negative vibration, was creating all these problems. Once I cleared the object, there were no possessions, there were no more sinkhole issues, there were no more pipe issues, and they could finish the project.
Wow. It's interesting how they can influence that kind of thing.
Huge.
Like a sinkhole.
Yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't think they could do that for just a knife being buried in the ground.
I know, and that's why I tell you every single session I have, every clearing is completely different, and I'm constantly learning history. I'm constantly learning how entities work and where they come from and their evolution of, hey, I used to be a really nice person, but then I got really angry, and then I kind of went down into the really negative realms, and they weren't demons, but they were certainly negative forces. And then once I talked to him, like there was one long ago where this is what happened. And I go, no, you're not a demon. You don't have the same vibration. What happened? And this woman was so angry for so long, she forgot what happiness was. And I go, well, let's go back to a time before you died and where you were happy, because there must have been a time. And then she finally, one part of her, she had a memory. She goes, oh my gosh, I was human at one point. Oh my gosh, I had blonde hair. I remember my life. Wow, I was happy. And so I could link her back to that she could be human and having, a fairly happy experience in life. And so then she ended up doing an about face and not doing all these negative things and being just in this pain. Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
A couple of things out in the audience here. Anne Marie wrote, I wonder if you feel anything from that doll you guys have that messed with my sleep. And I did have a weird kind of dream and haunted experience thing with a doll, and I'll show it to you. And I don't think there's anything going on with it now, but we had it on the show. We would keep you know what the cat balls are? It's called the cat balls in the
Cat balls.
paranormal. It's a wonderful name, right? There's just like they work by motion, right? So when
Yes.
they move at all, they'll start to go, and it's a cat toy. It's
Cool.
an affordable paranormal tool, I guess, or you know, you can play with the cat with it. But let me show you the doll, and that's a good question, Anna. Let's see if you.
Thanks.
Sure.
I'm trying to get my computer not to shut down on me.
It used to set off those cat balls all the time. We would keep one
Yes.
on it, and then it kind of stopped. But let me show this to you. There's a little story behind there and all that. Let me show you.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And it's
Just
okay
kind
if
of
you don't
looking.
know anything.
I'm just looking at it right now. I sometimes use a pendulum to get yes, no questions, though I will never use a Ouija board. I don't recommend it. I'm getting a no.
No.
I would agree. I don't think
Yeah.
she is anymore. I think
Not
for
anymore.
this
She
was having some activity, and it wasn't
And it was a
permanent.
lot.
Wasn't a permanent thing.
Yeah.
But no, it's an idea of who it was, even that sort of thing.
And there's your panpsychism. They can go.
Right. It was one of the reasons we got on that, because we're like, how can that really be? You know, had it for a long time. There's no activity, and all of a sudden it seemed to be influencing even my dreams and different things.
Mm.
And that passed, you know, and we had a couple different experiences in this room. For a few weeks, the camera would pan on its own, and
During our live shows.
and it's on a tripod, and we can't do anything to move it with our feet because it's too far back, and it's on a separate thing. If we shake the table, it doesn't affect the camera at all. And
Right.
that kind of stuff was happening. It was almost in jest. I think it was sort of a prankster kind of thing.
Yes. That's the feeling I got from
And it probably liked the attention that we were giving it, because we would talk about it on the show.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right.
Validated.
And sometimes they stay for a short while, and sometimes they like to stick around. There was one experience I had when, again, I was kind of earlier on in this career, and I had purchased like a side table, and it came in a box. UPS dropped it off. And when I brought it into it was a condo, the box just felt weird, just felt really full, not just an object. And I go, interesting. And so I bring it down and I'm unpacking it, and my dog was barking at something in my condo. And he's looking at something and he's tracking something, and there's no flies, it's middle of the day. And I rub my hands together and I put my hand out and I walk towards the open kitchen, and then my hand totally started to prickle. And there was an entity, or a male entity, that was attached to the box. And I saged the heck out of my condo, but it did not feel different. And I go, oh, this isn't working. Sage is kind of like level 101. It's nice, but it doesn't do the real work. You know, it helps shift some things. So I finally had a conversation, and he was kind of a vagabond. He was really powerful, and he just liked to cruise around and see how people lived.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. And I go, so do you have any information for me? And, you know, so we chat a little bit, and I go, all right, well, I'm like, thank you. Are you ready to go? And he goes, yeah, okay, I'm ready to move on. I'm like, thank you very much. And literally in my mind's eye, he shot off like a rocket into the sky.
Oh, wow.
And I've learned that the more powerful ones, they will shoot off like a rocket. And it was amazing. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting visual to
Yeah.
get. And we like the Palo Santo and the sage and stuff, but we don't rely on it too much. And like Kristen said, it's about the intentions. But I like the meme that's going around. It says, I saged my house last night and woke up outside.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we are our own worst enemies sometimes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Certainly.
Yes. Yes. So that's why the grounding and the shielding and protecting and knowing yourself really well helps you differentiate between what's you and what's something else.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And to come back to, or circle back to your book, what can people expect to learn from the book?
I think what people can really learn is that it's okay to be where you are, first of all. and I think we have so many judgments on ourselves. I should be better. I should be this. I should be that. I shouldn't have this, addiction or whatever. And so first of all, it really helps, I think, reset a person's system into acknowledging you're doing the best you can and it's okay to be here now.
Mhm.
But if you want to shift, let's look at that and let's see how we hold energy in our systems. And I bring people along into learning more about what NLP is and how you can use it. And at the end of each chapter, there are exercises to help you along your way, create your desired state and develop it. And then it moves you through family soul constellation work and Huna work and into even, at the end of the book, I share like a very profound experience that I had where my whole experience of the world shifted in like a moment. And it was just like, wow. And I don't want to spoil the surprise, but
Yeah, you don't have to give it away.
it ends on a really cool place.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
Sounds
awesome.
great.
And again, I love that name, becoming
Thank you.
ridiculously awesome. Who
Yes.
doesn't want that? Because who doesn't want that?
Yeah, exactly. Right here.
Yeah.
I mean, Kristen's awesome, but
Aw,
I want to
so
be.
sweet. You are awesome. Come on.
Ah,
Come on.
come on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think you have a lot to offer to a wide range of people. We have a lot of paranormal enthusiasts, researchers, investigators out there in our audience. And, you talk about some concepts that seem outside of it. And I think that's wonderful. And we like that because I feel like everything is way too labeled. People like to pigeonhole everything. Well, this is a ghost hunting thing, and this is that, and this is consciousness, and this is new agey or whatever.
Right.
They're all related. All these things are related. So is ufology and the aliens that we started the show off with.
Everything's true.
This is definitely related
Yeah.
to a lot of these things. So I think it's great to take in new stuff. Huna, NLP.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with it, there's a lot to learn there. I think Tony Robbins used NLP quite a bit. At least at one
Mhm.
time. I remember reading one of his books and got into that, and it was very effective tools. He's an effective guy, right? Tony Robbins, for God's sakes.
Very effective. Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
come
The
walk
hot
on
coals.
fire, right? Yeah.
Right.
That kind of stuff. And people really do that stuff, and it's like mind over matter, and it happens, and their feet aren't burned at all.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's true. It is amazing. And if you guys want to read about more ghost stories, some of the ghost stories that I have experienced, go to ghostfreeproperty.com and send me a little email. There's a link, and I will send you my ebook, which is a Huna ebook. And I have 7 ghost stories for you in there.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Wow, that's pretty
Absolutely.
awesome. Can I get a copy of that? 'Cause I'd like to-
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, I'll definitely check that out.
Good.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
we definitely will. It's been really fun, and thank you so very much. It's very informational, and should have everybody check her out. And Amber wanted to know the name of your book again.
It is Becoming Ridiculously Awesome. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
And
That's
if you want a signed copy, buy it on livingyourawesome.com, and I will send it to you tomorrow promptly.
Excellent. livingyourawesome.com. And the other website is concerned with the blessings and such. Ghostfreeproperty.com. If you're out ready to buy a house, sounds like it might be a good idea to give you a call. Do you do any kind of remote work?
I do. It's all through Zoom. I can clear houses remotely. Absolutely. So don't feel that even if you're in Scotland, anywhere in the world, I can clear it remotely. Yes.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation.
Yes, thank you so very much.
Stick around. I'm going to wrap things up, and we'll chat in a moment.
It's
All
very
right. Thank
So
you.
much, Meredith. And that's all the time we have for the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. Thanks everyone in the audience tonight.
Yes.
Big thanks to Meredith,
Thank
of course,
you.
our wonderful guest, but thank you, Amber, Anne-Marie Young, Ken Allen, everybody who's out there, Jeff the Goat, all of you. Thank you. Wasn't for you guys, we really wouldn't have a show. So
That's right.
we'll see you Saturday with Bigfoot and the Bunny. We've got a pretty good show planned too, but look for it, and we'll see you then.
Love you guys. Thanks again.